So let's begin looking at our first commandment on how to get along with each other. Number 1, always say less than what you think. Speak your truth quietly and clearly. How you say something often counts more than what you say. Proverbs 17, verse 27, he who has knowledge spares his words, and a man of understanding is of a calm spirit. Even a fool is counted wise when he holds his peace. When he shuts his lips, he is considered perceptive. Everyone has preconceived ideas about people they meet. We base what we think about a person on what they look like before they ever even speak a word. However, one of the most important indicators of what we think about a person after we have finished assessing them with our preconceived ideas, we listen to what they say and we'll look at what they do. Now, we also need to be careful with the words that we use, especially when we are approaching people for the first time or maybe we're joining a new group. For example, let's say you're taking a college class on a topic you know nothing about. What do you think your peers in the classroom will think about you if you try and answer a bunch of questions the instructor asks and you give really dumb answers every time? Well, most of them think that you might be a bit dumb or foolish. However, if you are silent most of the time and you only answer the questions you know the answers to, then most of your peers will think that you are kind of smart and that you're full of wisdom. I'm sure all of us have met people that we thought looked like that they were smart or maybe a nice person until they started opening their mouths and showed us otherwise. Other times people seem to love the sound of their voices so much that they end up saying things they should not, which is why it's a good practice to use fewer words instead of more, because our words can become a snare. Proverbs 6, verse number 2, you are snared by the words of your mouth. You are taken by the words of your mouth. Don't just speak to hear your head rattle. Think about what you're going to say. As Ecclesiastes 3 verse 7 states, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. When we do speak, we should do our best to speak clearly so that there is less of a chance for us to be misunderstood. Consider Ecclesiastes 9 verse 17. Words of the wise spoken quietly should be heard rather than the shout of a ruler of fools. If we start yelling at people, do you think they're going to listen to us better? Back in Proverbs 17, verse 27, it said that a man of understanding has a calm spirit. So those who have mastered the art of persuasion, they understand that a softer spoken response will be more effective than a yelled one. I know people can be annoying at times and they can push your buttons, but becoming angry and flying off the handle will not help you get along with others. As James wrote, James 1:19, so then, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath, for the wrath of man does not produce the righteousness of God. Sometimes when trying to reach the lost, we might yell at the person and tell them they're going to go to hell if they don't repent. How effective do you think that will be? Well, under most circumstances, it would not be helpful. The reason I say most circumstances is because there are some circumstances that might warrant such a blunt statement with a raised voice. But in general, this is not the method that we should use. Now, we need to choose our words carefully, especially in an intense moment. How you say something can either calm the tense moment down or escalate it. I wish we could always speak the right words and say them in the right way, but as James 3 points out, the tongue is hard to control. But we should always strive to tame our tongues so that we can be the best and most influential servant of God that we can. As Paul said in Colossians 4, verse number 6, let your speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, that you may know how you ought to answer each one. Proverbs 25, verse 11, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in settings of silver.